It was a joyous family gathering, filled with laughter and memories, until Aunt Karen says my cancer is not real, and I'm just begging for attention. Here's how it all went down. It was one of those family gatherings that come around a few times a year. The kind where memories are made and stories from the past get a fresh coat of paint. My backyard was abuzz with energy. Kids mastering their soccer skills, Uncle Rob ruling the grill, and those ever-present pop tunes from an old stereo that everyone secretly loved but publicly mocked. Various relatives lounged around, some deep in conversation, sharing jokes and tales from back in the day, while others prepped the feast on the food table. Amidst the chatter, whispers of my recent breast cancer diagnosis circulated. Some family members approached me with gentle eyes, their concern evident, while others kept a respectful distance, not wanting to pry. The shadow of my mom's battle with the same disease and her eventual loss hung over us, casting a bittersweet tone on the day. And then, there was Aunt Karen, unmistakable with her exaggerated sunglasses and reading glasses, the latter perpetually on the brink of falling. Every family has an Aunt Karen, right? The epicenter of unsolicited advice and unfounded opinions. She was holding court in her usual spot, captivating a few uncles and aunts with what I assumed was either the latest on her miracle diet or some juicy drama from her current favorite TV show. Jenny, my ride-or-die cousin, sauntered over, each hand holding a sweaty glass of lemonade. The sun highlighted the freckles on her nose. "Hey," she began, handing me one of the glasses. "How's it going since you got the news?" I sipped the tangy drink, letting the cold distract me for a second. "It's been a roller coaster, Jen. Some days are better than others, but I'm gearing up for a fight." Jenny and I leaned back, soaking up the sun, chatting about everything and nothing. We reminisced about that time we built a treehouse, our failed attempts at baking, and our hilariously irrational fear of spiders. Our chuckles seemed to float on the summer breeze, but in the middle of our heart-to-heart, our chatter seemed to echo a bit louder than intended. Aunt Karen's radar-like ears, always tuned to the frequency of gossip, perked up. Swirling her drink, she ambled over, her eyebrows raised almost comically high. "Hold up, what was that about cancer?" Jenny and I shared an eye roll, a silent, "Here we go," exchanged between us. "Yeah, Aunt Karen," I began, my voice laced with hesitancy. "Breast cancer." She let out an exaggerated laugh, almost spilling her drink. "Seriously? I read this article on Facebook the other day. You know, from that website with the pop-up ads? It said cancer's just some big hoax, just a ploy to get our hard-earned money." Jenny's face went from 0 to red-hot in 2 seconds. "Aunt Karen, you're joking, right? Please tell me you're joking." Karen smirked, taking another sip from her glass. "Just saying, maybe do some of your own research." Aunt Karen, adjusting her comically oversized reading glasses, gave me an up-and-down look that felt more like an inspection than anything else. "Oh, sweetheart," she started, her voice dripping with a mix of faux concern and undeniable condescension. "Is this the new story you're peddling? Needing a bit of attention at the family barbecue? You've always had a dramatic streak, just trying to get some of those sweet sympathy points. The lively chatter of the backyard abruptly ceased. Conversations were cut short, kids paused in their tracks, and it felt as though even the rustling leaves were waiting for the next move. From little Timmy clutching his toy to Grandma Joan with her knitting, all eyes were on us. Jenny, my cousin and fierce defender, took a deep breath, her face flushing. "Aunt Karen," she began, her voice quivering but strong, "her mom went through the same battle. It wasn't just a story or some passing phase." Karen waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, I remember. But it wasn't cancer, sweetie. People get old. Things wear out. It was just her time. Life has a way of deciding these things." Jenny, never one to back down from a challenge, especially when it came to defending family, shot up from her seat, her face a vivid shade of red. "Aunt Karen," she retorted, "this isn't some twisted plot of a telenovela. It's real, it's painful, and it's not for your entertainment." Aunt Karen, unable to resist the lingering tension, interjected with a defiant tone. "Look at me! I'm still strong! No cancer!" As the tension continued to mount, our cousins, ever the peacekeepers, jumped into action. Big-hearted Ben tried to defuse the situation with humor, stepping between Jenny and Aunt Karen. "Aunt Karen, did you hear about the time I tried to make homemade ice cream and ended up with butter instead?" He laughed, trying to divert her attention. But Aunt Karen was not to be distracted. Squinting her eyes behind those massive reading glasses, she retorted, "Oh, please! All of you are so blinded by modern medicine. I just read an article that says eating 3 raw onions a day can cure anything, even cancer. Maybe you should try that instead of wallowing in pity." The comment was so absurd that for a moment there was stunned silence. Then Sarah, always the voice of reason, tried to shift the focus. "Aunt Karen, I made a new potato salad recipe. Want to give it a taste and guess the ingredients?" But it was clear the atmosphere had been irreparably soured. Cousin Mike, known for his quiet demeanor, finally had enough. Aunt Karen, with all due respect, you need to leave. This is neither the time nor the place for such insensitivity. Uncle Rob, who had been flipping burgers in the corner, put down his tools and nodded in agreement. Mike's right, Karen. Maybe take your onions and go reflect on what you've just said. Visibly shocked and not used to the family pushing back, Aunt Karen hesitated for a moment, her face showing a mix of disbelief and anger. The tension in the air was palpable as everyone's attention remained fixed on her. With a sudden burst of fury, she went off on a rant, saying cancer was all a big joke and that people only use it for attention and sympathy. She even accused the family of being gullible followers who couldn't see through the supposed hoax. As Aunt Karen continued her tirade, her face turned red with a mix of self-righteousness and indignation. She passionately argued that everyone was being fooled by the medical establishment's lies and that she alone possessed the truth. The whole backyard fell silent, with shocked and angry expressions on everyone's faces. Aunt Karen was visibly taken aback by the united front of the family. She hesitated for a moment, looking at each family member, before storming off in frustration and muttering about blind sheep. After everything that happened, Jenny and I found solace in the warm embrace of our family. Jenny leaned in and whispered, "You know what? This family is a beautiful mix of crazy and caring. But one thing's for sure, we've always got each other's backs." After the whole Aunt Karen thing, I started my chemo. It is rough and tiring, lots of changes, and some days I just felt like crap. But my family, they stepped up big time. Jenny was there all the time, cracking jokes and trying to keep things light. Ben kept sending me funny cat videos, which was classic him. And Sarah? She'd drop off food at my place, so I didn't have to cook. We still had family get-togethers, just without Aunt Karen. It felt more chilled and supportive, to be honest. Every day was a mix of hoping for the best and dealing with the now. Thinking of my mom kept me pushing on, and with everyone rallying around me, I kept thinking, I can beat this, and that's what I plan to do. Aunt Karen needs a reality check. This is not a soap opera plot, it's a person's life. Kudos to Jenny and the rest of the family for standing up and supporting their loved one. Wishing you all the best in your fight, author. Stay positive. I never imagined that my seemingly perfect marriage would come crashing down. Infidelity, betrayal, and a choice that would change everything. Here's how it all went down. I'll never forget that fateful day, the one that would forever mark a before and after in my life. 12 years, that's how long we had been married. 12 years of shared memories, vacations, laughter, arguments, and making up. Who would have thought that all it would take to shatter it was the young girl scanning our groceries every week at the local store? The signs were subtle at first. Little changes in his behavior, staying out a bit later, becoming more secretive with his phone, and unusually frequent trips to the store. But I brushed them off thinking, it's just a phase, maybe work stress. However, when the credit card statements started arriving, my gut feeling grew stronger. Dinners at fancy places we'd never been to, gifts from stores I'd never heard of, and luxury hotel stays? That's when my heart sank, and my mind raced, connecting the dots. It was as if the pieces of a puzzle, one that I never wanted to complete, fell into place. The realization of the sheer amount he'd been splurging on her was staggering. Every dime, every transaction felt like a personal betrayal. I couldn't help but think of all the times we had tightened our belts, and here he was, lavishing another with what we'd saved. I would have never imagined this would be our story, not in a million years. It's funny how life throws curveballs when you least expect them. The room was thick with tension when I finally confronted him. Holding up the evidence, I stared him straight in the eyes. "So what's this then?" he stammered, looking like a deer caught in headlights. "You're misunderstanding. It's not like that. You expect me to believe that all of this," I waved the evidence, "is just in my head?" He hesitated, and then his facade started to crack, his voice shaking. "Look, I messed up. Please don't leave me. I swear I'll change." I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "You said that last time, remember? Now, here's the deal. Either we open this marriage up with very clear rules, or we're done." His eyes widened. "Open our marriage?" "Yes," I responded firmly. "If we're going to try to save this for the kids, there are going to be conditions. No touching our joint savings, no bringing anyone to our home, and we always let each other know what's happening." He swallowed hard. "And if we, end up having another child with someone else? That's it. Game over. We're through." He looked defeated, but I wasn't done. "Or we can just call it quits. Get a divorce, split everything, and just focus on the kids. No more secrets, no more lies." He sat there, taking it all in, as I walked away, confident in laying down my terms. As the clock ticked away, I gave him time to think. But deep down, I knew my choice. If he didn't make a call, I would, and my heart was already leaning towards starting fresh. You know when you just get that gut feeling? Yeah, well, even with 12 hours left on the clock, I knew he wasn't going to choose. Instead of making a decision, he tried to dance around the issue. Wanted to talk, but I've heard enough talking. The day I told him to pack up and go was one of the most nerve-wracking days of my life. As the words left my mouth, I watched as his confident facade began to crumble. "Please," he pleaded, tears forming in his eyes. "We can get through this. Think about Jen and Steve. They made it work." I sighed, shaking my head. This isn't some rom-com where everything magically fixes itself in the end with a dramatic gesture. I can't keep looking over my shoulder, wondering if you're being faithful. His desperation grew. "But we can go to therapy, counseling, anything you want." I just stared at him, feeling a mixture of sadness and determination. "I've already spoken to a lawyer. The divorce papers will be ready soon." The thought of breaking the news to our family weighed heavily on me. Aunt Martha, always the romantic, will insist on second chances. Uncle Joe, who thinks he's a relationship guru, will probably say some nonsense about overcoming obstacles. And don't even get me started on the online comments. Some guy on my last post had the audacity to suggest that cheating could strengthen the bond. What kind of twisted logic is that? I'm not buying the fairy tales anymore. It's time for a new chapter. My house is quiet now. My kids are with Mom, and I have no clue where he's gone off to. I tried the open relationship thing, mostly for our kids. Didn't want them growing up with split weekends and holidays, but sometimes the stronger choice is to walk away. You know, my mom stayed with my dad after suspicions of his infidelity. Always said things were better after, but I saw through it. When Dad passed, a part of her was relieved from the burden of distrust. All I know is that I don't want to be forever doubting, always second-guessing. And when I told him it was over, I swear it felt like I could finally breathe again. A few months back, I had the not-so-pleasant experience of discovering that my husband was playing away games. Not his first time either. The first sting came 7 years ago when I was pregnant. Like many, I decided to forgive, forget, and work on our relationship. We sort of patched things up and life got back to a new normal. But history loves to repeat itself, doesn't it? The second time around, there was no hesitation. I was done. It's like trying to fix a cracked phone screen. It works, but every time you look at it, you're reminded of the damage. When I confronted him, he went into cheater's autopilot. Deny, twist, turn. No surprises there. He's bunking with his folks now. He's been blowing up my phone, even dropped the classic "I broke up with her" text. Too little, too late. And his mom, bless her heart, called up with apologies, suggesting perhaps we could iron things out. Nope, been there, done that. My babies are now chilling with my mom and stepdad, getting all the love and distraction they need. To be honest, after the initial wave of tears, I've been feeling strangely okay. I treated myself to a makeup spree, clocked some gym hours, devoured books at the library, and had some quality time with my TV. Shout out to crime shows. Maybe I thought I'd be more broken, but I'm just not. I even had a chat about it with my therapist. If anyone's got insights on why I feel this weird calm, I'm all ears. It gets parroted by cheaters of all genders to rationalize their bad behavior into something heroic. People who have been cheated on say it too. It's a common mental trick to get past traumatic events, saying, if I hadn't gone through the dark times, I'd never have become who I am today, or everything happens for a reason. But the truth is, infidelity is a painful experience that no one should have to endure. It's not some necessary evil that leads to personal growth. It's a breach of trust and a betrayal of the commitment made in a relationship. It's important to acknowledge the pain and seek healing in healthy ways rather than romanticizing the experience. I was on the brink of proposing when my world shattered into a million pieces. In the midst of the most vulnerable moment of my life, my girlfriend confessed to cheating on me. The future I had envisioned was suddenly clouded with uncertainty, and I had to decide whether to rebuild what we had or walk away. Here's how it all went down. From the time we shared crayons in kindergarten, she's been my anchor. Through the raging storms, when my folks lost their way, to the heartbreak of saying goodbye to my grandparents, she's been my North Star. Honestly, she's the Wonder Woman I never knew I needed. Remember that time when I tripped and you laughed so hard you cried? I teased her one evening as we lay on our favorite park's grass, looking up at the stars. She giggled. You mean that time you tried to impress me with your acrobatic skills? Exactly, and then I confessed how I felt about you right here in this park, I said, reminiscing about our past. Speaking of confessions, I'd made another big one, not to her but to our parents, about a month back. I wanted to marry this incredible woman. So, the plan was set in motion. Our beloved amusement park, where everything started, would be ours for a day. But life, with its twisted sense of humor, threw a wrench in my plans. Hey, I'll be out late tonight, okay? Karaoke with the girls, she'd said yesterday. I didn't think much of it, but when she stumbled into our room at 2 a.m., I knew something was off. By morning, she was a mess. Sobbing, she looked at me with those remorseful eyes. "I messed up big time," she mumbled, choking on her words. I braced myself for what was to come. As she recounted her drunken escapade and a regrettable mistake with another man from the karaoke party, a cold wave crashed over me. "But why?" was all I could manage. "I don't even know," she sighed. "I was so wasted it's like I forgot. Us. That sounds like if you weren't with me, you'd—" I couldn't even finish. "No, it's not like that," she cried. "It's not about us or our relationship. It's about a terrible choice I made." And as we sat there in the weight of her confession, I knew we were at a crossroad. Our past was filled with love and laughter, but the future, it remained uncertain. The silence was only pierced by the soft whimpers escaping my throat. I wanted to scream, shout, demand answers, but all I could muster were these silent cries of betrayal. As I tried to digest her confession, she approached me, her eyes filled with tears. "I'll do anything, anything at all," she whispered, wrapping her arms around me. "Please, let's not end it over this." My head was spinning. I need some space to think," I murmured, gently pushing away and retreating to another room. Now, in this room, surrounded by memories we'd created over the years, I felt lost. I thought of her promise to rebuild our trust. A tempting thought flitted through my mind. What if I just go everywhere with her? But that wasn't love. That was imprisonment. I didn't want to cage her or myself. What kind of relationship would that be? My friend's advice was mostly to just move on. But how could I? Every crevice of my heart was filled with her. We'd grown up together, from sharing crayons to sharing dreams. Our lives were intertwined in ways most people couldn't fathom. Could I just sever that bond and pretend to be whole? No. It wasn't about moving on or clinging on. It was about finding a middle ground. If there's a way for us, it needs to be based on mutual respect, understanding, and a genuine effort from both sides. Setting some ground rules, seeking professional help, and prioritizing open communication might be a start. But for now, I just needed to breathe. The weight of the recent events pressed heavily on my shoulders, and I couldn't help but grapple with a gnawing question. Should I discuss the incident with our parents? The imminent amusement park plan would have to be called off, and they'd undoubtedly want to know why. However, divulging the specifics of our predicament was a daunting thought. Maybe I could skirt around the painful truth by implying I was having second thoughts, or that I just wasn't ready. My reluctance wasn't about shielding my pride, but about protecting her from the possible ire or disappointment of her parents. The woman who had been my anchor, my unwavering hero, did not deserve the brunt of anger, especially when I knew all too well how devastating such confrontations could be. Seeking clarity and perhaps an ounce of closure, I approached her a day later. I needed to hear her recount what transpired that night from her perspective. I braced myself for every potential detail, readying my heart for the worst. However, nothing could have prepared me for her revelation. According to her, everything started off normal enough. Richard, just some guy dating one of her friends and who I've only exchanged a nod or two with, decides he's going to drop in on the karaoke night. Just perfect, right? As the evening progressed, things started going downhill. For every song that played, there seemed to be a drink being thrust into her hand. And let's be real, she's not one for heavy drinking. Everyone knows she's good with a beer or two, and that's her evening sorted. But, oh no, her so-called friends decided it was challenge time. With every sip she resisted, they'd roll their eyes and toss out those irritating comments. "Seriously? Lighten up for once. And why do you always have to be the wet blanket?" It felt like some twisted game they were playing, just pushing her further and further into drinking more than she should. Before she knew it, and before anyone could stop this train wreck, she'd knocked back 10 beers in what felt like a blink of an eye. And guess what? That's just what she could recall before everything turned fuzzy. I shudder to think of what came after that 10-drink mark. She lost track, got swept up in the booze-fueled fog, and the clarity of the evening just vanished. And, as if the night wasn't already a disaster, she lost her judgment completely. That's when she made that gut-wrenching mistake with another man. A mistake that's now haunting us both. How did things go so terribly wrong in just one evening? After careful consideration, I made the decision to give her another chance. I understand that it may seem foolish to do so, but I couldn't bear to let go of everything we had built together. As for the amusement park reservation we had made, canceling it wasn't an option. Instead, we chose to proceed with the plan, excluding the proposal aspect. We extended the invitation to more friends and family to join us. Last week, I explained to her the reason behind booking the place, but I will be postponing the proposal until we resolve our issues. She was extremely upset, but she understood why things had changed. Currently, we are attending couples therapy, and it has been a truly positive experience for both of us. Furthermore, she has made the decision to quit drinking. She admitted that she never really enjoyed it and only did it to fit in with others. She also explained everything to our parents. It was a difficult conversation, but one that was necessary for transparency and healing. We wanted our families to understand the challenges we were facing and the steps we were taking to rebuild trust and strengthen our relationship. We figured out we both like doing things together, like karaoke. That night she went out, she thought I was busy, but I wasn't. Seems we've got to talk more and assume less. Big thanks to everyone for the advice. We're in a good place now and I'm hopeful about us moving forward side by side. Always avoid situations that you know you can't handle. They will only lead to bigger problems. Being drunk is not a valid reason to cheat. It's important to take responsibility for our actions and make choices that align with our values and commitments. If you enjoyed today's stories, check out the other videos on your screen now. Submit your own stories at you'rethejerk.com. Subscribe now, or you're definitely the jerk.